Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. I think it's time we know, like, if you're online, clearly it's a seminar, even though if we're on the web. I think we can figure that out. Good to see you. I'm glad that you could join me today. This one is marketing magic. This is a very favorite one that I love to teach just because marketing is something that I have really leaned into over the last 7, 8, 10 or so years because I was not great at it. And that's not true. I won't say I wasn't great at it, but marketing has evolved. Marketing has changed so much. And I really am enjoying seeing what's going on in the world right now in the world of marketing. So, what I'm going to be showing you stuff today is stuff that I have learned and continue to learn as a student of marketing. And although my degree is in accounting, but yeah, I'm a student of business, student of marketing. So I get to show you these things today. So while you are here, please go ahead and type in the chat where you are coming from today and what line of work that you're in. Do you own your own business? Are you thinking of starting a business? I seem to attract a lot of solopreneurs and other people. Maybe you're in the marketing industry and you just kind of see what someone else's perspective is. I see a lot of people that have come on and do that. They have marketing web pages, and I think that's amazing. So thank you for spending your time with me today. Debbie, thank you. It's good to see you. And then let me know too if this is the first time you are seeing me. If this is your first time, or if you are a repeat offender. I would love to know a little bit more about that. So you're marketing a book. Oh, fantastic, excellent. I have Debbie. Did you know that I've written a couple books? I don't know if you knew that. So I have written 8 books. I have actually. I'm working on my 9th right now, called The Time Wealthy Leader Boss. And so Williamsport, Maryland. You did. Okay, Debbie. Very good. Interested to hear about your book. Did you go to the book writing and publishing session? Your name seems familiar, so I'm just wondering if you have been there. Michelle, you are from Minneapolis, Minnesota, nonprofit consultant. This is the first time. Okay, very good. Well, I'm glad that you are here. New York City, currently a high school student, just trying to learn more about perhaps a future major. Excellent. I'm going to tell you, thank you, Lucy. I actually grew up in the Catskills, so I know your neck of the woods. I'm just going to let you know what I'm going to be talking about today is stuff that they're not going to talk about in marketing classes. And I'm not dogging on marketing classes. I'm not saying like you don't need to go to school or anything like that. I think education is extremely important. In fact, I'm currently in a PhD program right now for organizational psychology. And I'm just letting you know the stuff that I have seen that's coming out of the marketing world that's not super practical. And the stuff that I have seen, the people that I have been tracking and watching who are in the marketing world, they are legit geniuses. These are people that everybody knows the names. They know their names of Dan Kennedy and Russell Brunson and Alex Hormozy, and even people like Tony Robbins and even Grant Cardone, who are really good marketers, right? Even if you don't really believe in their products or who they are, you might find them gross as a human being. They are amazing marketers. And that's what sometimes you have to set that stuff aside so you can learn about what they're doing so you can get your message out there and do it in an authentic way that's in alignment with your core values. All right. So without any further delay, Jennifer, you are a sales rep in an IT company and have a side gig as a business administrator. And I'm working for a healthcare company, marketing them in a travel agency. Excellent. Well, very good. Well, here what we're going to talk about today is marketing magic. And I just want to let you guys know we're taking a top-down approach to doing this. I'm not going to get super granular because, as you can see, there's all sorts of different businesses, all sorts of different industries that are on this call today. So I want to give you guys some nuggets for you to take away from this. Right out of the gate, I'm going to ask you a couple quick things. First and foremost, please don't multitask. Try to just stay plugged in. I know you're on your computer. I know you're on your phone. Please don't multitask. Do your very best to train your brain for the next 55 minutes. I'm going to pour into you some of my very best stuff. And I don't want you to miss a nugget because you're maybe trying to scroll a TikTok video at the same time and think that you're going to be able to multitask. I'm just letting you know multitasking is a myth. You cannot do it. If you don't think I'm making up stories, Google multitasking is a myth. Not right now, because that would be multitasking. But Google multitasking is a myth, and you will get plenty of really, really, really smart people telling you that, yes, we are not designed to multitask. So I'm just letting you know. And in fact, if you think you are good at it, you're probably not as good as you actually think you are. So I'm just saying, stay plugged in, train your brain to stay focused for over the next 54 minutes. All right. So that is one thing. Second thing, I'm letting you know, yes, you will be getting a replay. I've gotten some messages from some of you already saying, hey, I can't stay for the whole thing. It's fine. I'm going to email you a replay where I'm going to upload it to YouTube, and you'll see my YouTube channel there, but you will also get the link directly on YouTube. So you will be getting the replay from this. So that is all that I have on that. I think that's everything. Okay. So here's what I want to show you right out of the gate. What is your first job as a marketer? Your first job as a marketer, you're like, well, it's to get my name out there. It's to let people know what in the world that it is that I do. Okay, but I'm going to say there's something that trumps more than that. Your first job, your second job, your third job, your 17th job, all the way through, is to create trust with your client avatar. Create trust. And it's not to entertain. It's not to come up with a new dance. It's not to come up with something that's pithy or funny. All of those things are fine for getting views and getting engagement, right? But the last time I checked my engagement to dollar translation in my bank account, there wasn't one, right? I mean, I can have a video that has 10,000 views, but it does not necessarily translate to dollars in my bank account. And you might say, well, I'm branding. Fine. But at the end of the day, I want to make sure that it actually translates to dollars in my bank account. And the problem is that many people confuse posting, and they're confusing going viral with making money. And that's not creating trust. That the reason is, okay, yeah, it was a funny video, right? But what did it do to create trust with your avatar? And you'll hear me talk more about avatar here in a second. But what is it? What are you specifically doing to create trust? Because if your customer, they may laugh, they may think you're funny, they may think you're pretty, right? Not very many people tell me that I'm pretty, but my bride does. But the thing is, I don't care. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how cutesy you are or anything else. What matters is how much do they trust you. Okay. So I'm just letting you know this is important to creating trust. I'm going to talk about how to create trust. And there's 7 elements of creating trust. There are trust triggers, things that will trigger trust. And we're going to talk about that near the end. This is about trust-based lead generation. And if you don't know how to create trust with your client avatar, with the ideal person that you want to sell to, you're not going to sell. Your marketing is going to be ineffective, and you won't know why. Okay. So think about that first, second, third, 17th, 38th. Those are your roles. The mission is to create trust with your client avatar. So the thing is that the fastest way to demonstrate, or the fastest way to create trust, okay, is to demonstrate competence, to demonstrate that you know what you're talking about. So in the way that you do that is you give away a little bit of a sample, give away a little bit of what you know. Give away some information that and back that up with maybe some statistics, back that up with some social proof, right? Someone else saying, hey, yeah, what they said is absolutely right. Or maybe you can walk them through a story where they can go on that journey with you. And that's why story can be so compelling, especially in marketing and especially in sales. All right. So here's what I want to do. Before we go any further on this, I don't want you to just take this session just to audit the class. Just be like, well, I'm just, getting some information, thinking about it. I want you to seek knowledge to actually take action on. I want you to say, yes, that is a component. So all throughout this session, over the next 50 minutes, you're going to be looking at this thing and say, I want you to be looking for a nugget that you can employ. Otherwise, this is just going to be another thing that you do. This is just going to be another session that you take today. A week from now, you'll have long forgotten my name, and nothing will have changed in your life. It's really important that you start to think about things that you are going to integrate. Otherwise, think about it. We are in the information age. There's not a lack of information problem out there. There's a lack of integration problem out there. And that's the problem. And because you've got information without integration, it doesn't lead to transformation. It leads to stagnation. It leads to frustration and all the other Asians. Okay. So I'm just saying, this is where I want you to think about this as you're going through this today, what you're going to actually take action on. And we're going to revisit this at the end. I'm going to ask, I'm going to know, I'm just going to know, right? For those of you who are not paying attention. So just, again, this is for you. So let me pour into you. And I just want to make sure you are good to go. All right. So it makes sense. Like type in makes sense. No, I hate your face, something. Just let me know that you guys are out there hearing me. All right, there we go. All right. All right. Thank you, Petra. All right. So this is what I'm saying. I just want to make sure that you guys understand, like, this is something. Okay. Thank you, Petra. Thank you, Debbie. All right. Excellent. All right. Perfect. Thank you, Lucy. All right. So here's what we're going to do. The reality is that if you don't take the time to focus on your lead generation, you can have the best, most efficient business. You might have the best book, Debbie. Your book might be amazing, right? It could be amazing. It could be the best book. It could be, you could demonstrate you could be a paragon of virtue. You could sell voting booths to Castro because your sales technique is so dialed in, and you can still starve. None of that matters. None of that will matter if you don't have lead generation. I'm not suggesting that you can't have a good product or service. I'm not suggesting that you can't have some rudiments of good selling and good salesmanship. But the reality is you can starve if you don't have effective lead generation. And that's why I put this session together. So let me just point out real quick. This was my very first book. This is called The Time Wealthy Investor. It's a book. It was a book written for mom and pop landlords or mom and pop property managers. Okay. And the thing was, I'm just letting you know, it's a really good book. And I'm not saying it's like a good book because I wrote it. I'm saying it was a good book because I spent several years on it, putting it together, editing it, having to basically start all over again because the book was just trash. Then I rewrote it, and then I started to get really good at writing. And I got a lot of people who actually read the book that said, wow, this is a really good book, right? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, why isn't anybody buying it, right? Because when I was like, I mean, I had trouble selling it, right? But I put that book out there, and I just kind of put it up on Facebook or on at the time it was Create Space that published it automatically to Amazon, and I was like, all right, you're welcome, world. Like, it's a great book. Like, people are telling me how amazing this book is. And after a month, I logged in and I looked, and I had $0 in sales. I was crushed. I was like, oh, this is gonna be harder than I thought. Right. And I was like, okay, well, let me start to learn a little bit about marketing. Right now, I'm in the real estate business. I've been in the real estate business for a number of years. I have a property management business. I have been in multiple businesses, and I knew how to market those. I didn't know how to market a book. I'd never done that before. Right. Most of my marketing was grassroots. Most of my marketing was very local. I didn't know how to do that. So I was like, okay, well, let me see what people are doing out there. So I heard about this guy, Russell Brunson, and I heard about some other people. I heard about Dan Kennedy, and I heard about Frank Kern and all these amazing marketers out there. I'm like, okay, so I'm getting all their books and I'm starting to read a little bit, right? And I'm like, just a little bit, right? Because it's like, here I am. I'm already in the thick of it. I should have been marketing this thing a long time ago. So I created this brand called Landlord Coach, right? Because it was about a book, right? The Time Wealthy Investor, which is about landlording. I thought, okay, great. I've got this brand. It's a really recognizable brand, and I did a great job of this. And I got funnels and postings, and I'm doing all this marketing. Does this sound familiar to anybody, by the way? Does this sound remotely familiar? Hey, Michelle. Yeah, does this sound remotely familiar? Right? Where you're doing the funnels and the posting and the marketing, the emailing and the cajoling. And I started to put a lot of effort into selling this book. I paid for Amazon ads. I paid for Facebook ads. I paid for Google ads. And my volume increased tremendously. And I spent 3 months of doing nothing but trying to sell these darn books. And from all that effort, I went from $0 in sales to $95.64. I was so incredibly discouraged. I sold a dozen books. Now, keep in mind, so like, let me ask you, how many of you would have felt so incredibly discouraged at that point in time? I was so discouraged. And it took me 2 years to write and publish this book, no sales, right? Another 90 funnels or however many, buying other people's courses, creating a brand, spending money, more money. I felt like the only people making money were the advertisers, right? Only to have 12 sales. And that wasn't even profit, by the way. That wasn't even profit because I was selling the book at break even just to get some traction. Does anybody remember the free plus shipping offer that was really popular from 2010 until about 2018? And then some people like me came late to the game, right? And I did not want to sell this book for break even, right? But I didn't realize that book would have been amazing as a lead generation piece, right? What's called a lead magnet. Okay. Now I'm not going to get into that right now. I might mention a little bit later, but it would have been great here to just demonstrate some competence, demonstrate that I knew what I was talking about. Okay. And this is, I could use it to demonstrate authority. Right. But the point is, this is a very younger with more hair looking version of me. But again, the thing is, why didn't they buy the books? Here's why they didn't buy the books. I was trying to sell them information when they wanted transformation. That's important. Remember, I said this earlier, right? People, they didn't want the information. They wanted transformation. They wanted something different in their life. I was trying to sell them books when all they wanted was their life to be better. I was trying to sell the trip and not the vacation. And fundamentally, they did not trust me. Remember, the point that I didn't do early enough and I didn't understand well enough is I didn't get them to trust me. And they didn't trust that I knew what I was talking about. Plus, they didn't trust themselves. You know why they didn't trust themselves? Let me ask you something. How many of you, be honest, go ahead and I want you to type this in the chat. So get your fingers ready. How many of you out there have bought a book that you have not read? How many of you have bought a book that you're like, oh man, this is a great book, and you order it and you get it and you don't read it? Yes, I have hundreds of books. I have literally, I read about a book every week to 10 days, and I still have a lot of books that I haven't caught up, right? So that means that if they didn't buy the book, they couldn't trust themselves to buy the book and then read the book because it's a 300-page book. So that meant they had to trust themselves, right? A few dozen, right? I call that my stack of shame or my stack of guilt. Who's got a stack of guilt out there, right? Yeah, I've got a huge stack of guilt, but I do read a lot. I used to not. I used to get books and not read them. So that meant I couldn't trust myself as the buyer. So how many people do you think that didn't trust themselves as a buyer? They're like, oh man, I just don't need another book that I'm not going to read. And then it sits there staring at me judgingly as for my stack of shame. Right. So you're right. Right. Yeah. A ton, right? A ton. This is what I'm saying. So it's all about trust. They don't trust you. They don't trust the product or they don't trust themselves. Something in there is a breakdown of trust. So this is the thing. And think about, not to mention that they would have had to trust not only a few weeks of reading the book, but also probably trusting themselves to implement this and integrate it, right? So that it actually changes their life. There's a lot of mistrust there, and a lot of it has to do with them. So I'm just saying, this is why they didn't buy the book. So let me just show you here. This is if you see the graph there on the left is monthly revenues. Monthly revenues is what I brought in. So it starts at 5, goes to 10, goes to 15, and that's from 2017 to 2020. So eventually I did start making money. Now, about halfway through 2019, so you might see a little sliver there at the bottom, but about 2019, I was making a little over $5,000 a month in revenues, and I didn't have a lot of overhead. So I was making that was most of that was profit. And within the next year, I was bringing over a little over $17,000 per month. Now, I could have kept up that trajectory, but something changed for me in 2020. And honestly, I didn't want to stay in that same niche. As I mentioned earlier, I was in the real estate coaching space, and for anybody who's in that space, you kind of know there's just a lot of ick going on in the real estate coaching space. And I just kind of wanted to distance myself from that. So I started Strategic Boardroom, and I really wanted to work with business owners, right? Business owners, small business owners, which many landlords and property managers are small business owners. I just wanted to niche up a little bit. I continue to work with lots of real estate people. I continue to work with lots of property managers, but I just wanted to work with a more generic audience, right? Someone that was, more solopreneurs tend to be in the many coaches, right? Many people who are in the services, right? Those are the people that I really enjoy working with. But the thing was, I could have stayed in that same niche, but I pivoted, right? And I decided to leave that. And I like working with, solopreneurs or companies with less than 20 employees. And what I experienced in the early days this is something called false confidence. Okay. And we're going to talk about that here really quickly, because this is important how you approach your marketing. All right. So just stay with me on this for just a hot second. And this false confidence shows up in a lot of different places. This photo, if you can't really see it, it's a guy in his sweatshirt he's holding a pistol, okay, at a person who is a bank teller. And on January 6th in 1995, this guy, MacArthur Wheeler, and his partner in crime, Clifton Earl Johnson, robbed 2 banks in Pittsburgh at gunpoint with no attempts to disguise themselves, right? So what do you want to know why they didn't just try to even like put a mask on or anything like that? In fact, one of the guys even waved at the cameras, right? You know what they did? They covered their face in lemon juice, follow me here, thinking that lemon juice, because it's invisible when you write it on a piece of paper, and then once you heat it up, it actually, you can see it, right? They covered their face in lemon juice, convinced that the cameras would not see them. Basically, they thought that they were invisible. I'm not kidding. So much so that these two researchers by the name of Dunning and Kruger, right, said, okay, we've got to figure this out. Let me get myself out of the way so you can see this here. Okay. So this is what came to be known as the Dunning-Kruger effect. And this is how false confidence plays a role for many people, especially business owners, especially the ones who might be struggling. So let me just demonstrate how this is. So the bottom of the graph here is competence, right? It's competence. It's knowing what you know, right? And on the left side of the y-axis is confidence as it goes up, right? So as you start down the competence journey, as time goes on from the right, you start here at the bottom. You don't know anything, right? So as you go, your confidence is super, super high in the very beginning, right? You peak up here, and it's called the peak of Mount Stupid. Then as you continue, this is when you start to crest, all of a sudden you're starting to realize, wait a minute, maybe there's more to this than I thought. And you start realizing that you don't know what you don't know. And what happens is you end up in the valley of despair. This is where you start to realize, oh crap, this is going to be harder than I thought. Now, hold on just a hot second. Do you see where I was in this when I was trying to sell my books? How hard could it be? I put out this book. People are going to love it because it's a great book. Do you see this? All right. So follow this here. There's a reason I'm showing you this, because just start to think about for just a hot second where many business owners stop. Okay. Because here we're in the valley of despair. And if you keep going, if you keep climbing out, you will start to develop more competence, but it's a long slog, right? It's not nearly as high. You're gaining more confidence as your competence goes up, and you're going up that slope of enlightenment. Okay. So that is the Dunning-Kruger effect. So just think about this for a hot second. Where do most business owners give up? Where do most business owners give up? I was about to give up. I was about to declare emotional bankruptcy on not selling any books when I was in the pit of despair. And that's because I realized, oh my gosh, I don't know what I don't know. But if I stick with this long enough, I'm going to start to develop more and more competence, which is going to give me more and more confidence. Both of them are necessary. Both of them are necessary for also generating and creating trust with your avatar, with your marketing. Okay. So let's talk about getting started. Let's talk about I got to bring myself back up here. Otherwise I'll just keep talking and you're like, hey, where are the slides? And I'm like, I see the slides. You don't. All right. So as you continue on with this, oops, there we go. So as you're getting started, what I want to do is I want to lay this out in terms of just from a top-down perspective, right? So I'm going to get to the agenda here in just a second. You're like, wait a minute, we didn't get started yet? Yes, it's going to be quick. Like I said, we've got a lot of information to get through, but I want to lay out what's in the Viper methodology, which is an entire framework. It's a top-down approach. If I give you granular stuff and don't give you context, you're going to wonder well, how am I supposed to implement this? I want to give you a structure so you can implement it. Okay, does this make sense? So, all right, thank you, Petra. So, haha, I heard of this story. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's a real story, Lucy. It's a legit thing. I was like, there's no way anyone's that dumb. Yeah, apparently so. So it's known as the Dunning-Kruger effect. All right, so getting started. So let me show you what I'm going to show you first and foremost is the Viper method, right? Let's get to the agenda, right? So let me just show you this first and foremost. First, we're going to talk about the systems component of a business, and then we're going to talk about the psychology component of a business, right? This is going to be pretty quick. Then we're going to talk about the 4 core functions of business, and then we're going to talk about how all of this relates to marketing. So all of this does relate to marketing along the way, so don't check out. This is important, even if you don't necessarily own the business. But and then the last part, we will get into some resources. So everything that I am going to be talking about when I reference the Viper methodology is in this book. This is the Time Wealthy Advantage, which is my last series of books around the Time Wealthy Advantage. I'm not here to sell it or anything like that. If you live outside the United States and you would want it, I think you're best to probably buy it on Amazon. If you are inside the United States and you'd like a copy, you can go to strategicboardroom.com. But I'm not here to sell the book. I'm just letting you know that it's a possibility if you want it. All right, so let's get to Viper method. The Viper methodology is an acronym for vision, infrastructure, process, execution, and reporting. And this framework, now in other sessions in Eventbrite, I go through this very granular. I don't have the time to do that right now. And really, I want to kind of stay focused on marketing. So for those of you, I'm just going to do this really quickly. Vision is where you want to go. I'm going to come back to vision here in just a hot second. Vision has two components. It's got personal vision and business vision. Like I said, I'll come back to that one on around vision. Infrastructure is the bones of the business. It's the desks, it's the chairs, it's the software, it's the CRM, right? CRM, you might think like, well, what CRM? Like CRM could be like Salesforce, it could be Go High Level, it could be anything like that. HubSpot, Pipedrive, anything like that. Okay, if you're in marketing, could be AdOrbit, could be anything along those lines. That's all part of the infrastructure, right? The bones of the business. Again, phone systems and so forth, websites, etc. That's the infrastructure. Process is how you do stuff. Okay, and process is broken down into two elements. It's around tactical day-to-day elements, the tactical day-to-day things that you do every single day. It's how you prepare bank deposits. It's how you answer the phone. It's how your opening procedures, your closing procedures, things like that. That's your tactical process. Strategic process is around strategic planning. Like, where are you going to go? Because if you don't have any sort of strategy, the day just shows up and you just keep reacting to the day. And if you're a business owner and you know what it's like to just keep doing the same thing every day, not heading in any specific strategic direction, that's what happens. Most business owners don't take time for strategic planning. That's why I have a job. I am a strategist. I help business owners with their strategy because they don't do it. And if they did, even if they did, many of them don't know how to do it. They just think that, well, I kind of want to go in that general direction, so I'll just kind of point it that way. And it never works, or it seldom works. Not saying never, but just saying it seldom works because they get so in the day-to-day thick of things, like they're just paying attention to whacking the closest alligator to the boat. So that's what I'm saying. So you got to be really clear in your strategy. So there's tactical, strategic when it comes to process. Execution is just basically the things that you do, right? Because if you don't define the things you're going to execute on, most plans, like strategic planning, will fall apart in their execution. So you've got to be really clear about the things you're going to execute on. And then finally is reporting. And that's just tracking the things that you do and the results. That's it. It's just your lead metrics and your lag metrics. Your lead metrics are your actions and activities. Your lag metrics are the results of those actions and activities. So that's the Viper framework. That's the Viper methodology. Okay. So I know I went through that super quick, but I do want to go back to vision, because vision is really, really important in this context around marketing. All right. So when you're looking at vision has two components. It's got personal vision and it's got business vision. Personal vision is why you're doing this. It's like specifically asking the question, where do you want to go? Petra, where do you want to go? Debbie, where do you want to go in your life? Right? And, Michelle, Debbie, these are the sorts of things. Lucy, where do you want to go? Again, if you didn't have a life that was defined by income generation, what would you do from day to day? This is critical. This is really important, because if you don't ever take the time to define this, what's going to happen is you're going to create a business vision. And that business vision is going to be like, okay, cool. How are we going to get there? The problem with only having a business vision, and again, the danger in only having a business vision, is that if you create a business vision without ever giving any consideration to a personal vision, is that you end up creating a life that exists to serve the business. Or it can also work with a career too. The danger in creating a career vision without ever considering a personal vision is that you end up creating a life that exists to serve your career. And I'm just telling you that I've been down that road. I'm in my 50s now, and that sucks. Now, we've got a 20-year-old, we've got a 17-year-old, and we've got a 3-year-old. And all those, like, yes, that was intentional. You're like, wait a minute, you're 53 and you have a 3-year-old? Yes, I did. Yes, we did the math. But I'm just saying, like, that was part of our personal vision. We wanted to expand our family. And the business vision should exist to serve the personal vision. Okay. So I really want to encourage you. I don't have time to unpack that right now. So I just want to make sure that you recognize, take that time to start thinking about your personal vision and your business vision serving that personal vision, not the other way around. So let's talk about business vision. Business vision is defined by 3 C's. 3 C's. Thank you, Petra. So 3 C's of business vision are around core purpose, core values, and client avatar. Again, we are starting from top down. So when you're starting to think about core purpose, I want you to think about what business you're specifically in and what problems do you specifically solve. And it's really important that you're specific in this answer. So if you're selling, I don't care what it is that you're selling or whatever it is that you're marketing, you've got to be really clear about the purpose of whatever thing it is that you're selling. Because if you're too fragmented, you're not going to be effective, right? Have you ever had a friend? I've had plenty of this where I've had a friend on Facebook or on social media where all of a sudden they're like sliding into my DMs and they're like, hey, you look like you'd be good at selling whatever lotion or potion that they happen to be part of as an MLM, right? Maybe you've done that, right? This is important, right? Because all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, I thought you were selling insurance, right? Now you're selling some love potion or whatever. Like, what are you selling now, right? It's very confusing because the core purpose in your mind is all of a sudden very misaligned. Petri said, I'm 36 and have twin toddler boys. Oh my gosh. Let's say a prayer for Petra. Oh my gosh. God bless you. All right, hang in there. Hang in there, mama. All right, how old you have twin toddler boys. That is a lot. Hang in there. It does get better. It is fun though. I love having a toddler. She's a blast, but wow, she's a lot. And you have boys. Oh my gosh. All right. That is fun. All right. So I want you to think about this in terms of the core purpose is specifically what problems do you solve? This is really critical because when you start having conversations, you want to interrupt the conversation already going on in the mind of the prospect, in the mind of your avatar. Because when I'll say, for example, if I said, given what Petra just said, if I said, hey, are you a single, not single mom, but are you a mom that has no time to herself because you're spending it all on your kids? All of a sudden, Petra's going to be like leaning in. What is he offering? What is he suggesting? Right. And so like any parent who has kids, like one of our, so like we don't have, it's not a daycare, but it's like it's called My Gym. And this woman runs this gym where she's got toddlers and up to like 7 or 8 years old, where it's just they go in, they roll around, they go do these exercises, they jump in ball pits, right? It's kind of like a obstacle course for kids. And she had a parents' night. And do you want to believe, like, my wife and I, my bride and I, have not had a date night in I don't even know how long. And it was like my bride was like, hey, we're doing this, like, make sure that you're done with work because I want to hang out with you. And I was like, great. And we had no plans. We went back. You want to know what we did? We went home and we ate potato chips sitting on the floor and just watched YouTube. It was like, oh, right. Like we didn't want to go, like we had all these plans, like, yeah, we're going to go dinner. We're going to do this. And we're like, I don't want to do any of that. I just kind of want to go home. Right. But it was amazing that our gal at the My Gym place knew what we wanted. Right. So you got to understand your core purpose and deliver for your client avatar in the ways that are most important to them. So let's talk about core values. Now, core values, I'm letting you know this is super squishy. Super squishy. You're like, oh, this is so squishy. Yep, it is. And it's so critically important because you have to recognize that what matters to you about this business and how would the world be worse off if you were no longer in business? This is important. The reason for this is because core values, stay with me here for a second, core values defines company culture. And company culture and company brand are inextricably linked. You cannot separate brand from culture. And if you've got a strong brand, it almost becomes its own source of marketing. Think of like that really fancy restaurant where all of the waiters are always dressed and are always so super polite or whatever. Like think of Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A, for those of you who live in the United States, think of Chick-fil-A where all of the teenagers are super pleasant. They say my pleasure, right? Like it's unbelievable. And that's because that culture is defined by a very strong set of core values. That's the kind of marketing that is you can't buy that kind of marketing. So I want you to think about defining your company culture, or I'm sorry, defining defining your company culture through defining your core values. What's important to you about this business? What matters to you about this business? And who would suffer if you went out of business? How would the world be worse off if you were no longer doing this? And finally, is client avatar. Client avatar is really important. This is the crux of it. Who specifically and ideally do you want to serve? Because if you're not clear on this, I'm telling you, it's going to be really hard to be effective in your marketing. When I wrote The Time Wealthy Investor, I wrote it specifically with a mom and pop landlord in mind. And then I was like, wait a minute, I could sell this to property managers too. So then I was like, okay, it's trying to wrap in property managers to it. And I'm like, wait a minute, I could do first time investors in this too. So I tried to wrap them into the marketing, and it just got super fragmented. And it was very confusing to anybody who actually watched any of my marketing, because I was trying to tell too many stories. It didn't align at all. So this is where you want to start thinking about geographics, demographics, and psychographics. Geographics, demographics, and psychographics. You want to think about where they are. You want to think about who they are. Who meaning, are they married? Are they single? Are they young? Are they old? Are they wealthy? Are they broke? Whatever. You want to think about demographics. Do they have kids? Do they not have kids? Things like that. You want to think about your demographics. I like working with business owners. I like working with entrepreneurs. I like working with married entrepreneurs. I like working with married entrepreneurs, married business owners who have faith, right? Who have a belief in God. That's kind of important to me. I like working with married business owners who have faith in God and have kids. You know why? Because they're super busy, right? Now, that doesn't mean that I can't work with someone, that doesn't have, that's maybe younger than that, or older than that, or whatever. Like, but I'm just saying that's my avatar. That's who I tend to attract. You know why? Because I'm a member of that group. I know what they struggle with, right? Because I'm a member of that audience. I'm not trying to fabricate something that I don't know, right? I don't have solutions for billionaires. You know why? Because I'm not a billionaire. I don't particularly want to be. This is why I'm saying, like, this is where you understand the demographics of who they are. And psychographics is how they think. Psychographics is how they think. And when you're thinking about this in terms of ALEA, this is the acronym I want you to think when you think psychographics. That is their attitudes, their lifestyles, their interests, and their aspirations. If you know, then this is, we're going to talk more about this when I refer to affinity marketing, when I'm referring to affinity. And affinity is it's what's called a trust trigger, So if I mention to you that I'm a gun guy, right? Because I'm live in the Midwest. I've always been a gun guy. I've always been into guns. I'm a Marine. These are the sorts of things, right? So that's an interest of mine. Do you think just by affinity that people would want to be, they're like, oh, that's an interest of yours? Yeah, it is mine too, right? People who are into horses, people who are into racing, people who are into football, people who are into college sports, blah, 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 right? There's an affinity there. There's interest. And if you know their interests, you could say, hey, like if you were interrupting them in a basketball game because of a commercial, you'd say, hey, I know you're into basketball. Great to see you. I'm into basketball too. Blah, blah, blah. Hey, I want to, blah, again, here's the marketing piece, whatever. That's important. That's important that you recognize their interests, not just, that way it's like, oh, cool. You're a part of that tribe. I'm part of that tribe too, because we are herd animals. That's kind of what we do. We like to group, right? We like to be around the herd. Okay. So those are the 3 C's of business vision: core purpose, core values, and client avatar. Don't forget these. You have to take the time to develop these if you haven't. If you've got them developed, thank you for being patient as we get to the rest of this. All right. So that is the first piece, right, of the systems piece. Let's look at the psychology side of business. We talked about systems. Now let's talk psychology. Systems are important, but systems are only going to get you so far, right? So let's talk psychology. And psychology, when it comes to business, again, I mentioned earlier that I'm right now in a PhD program for organizational psychology, but there's a personal, individual psychology component, and then there's an organizational or business side of psychology. And when you're looking at personal psychology, you're looking at things like, oh, their self-worth. You're looking at things like self-management, self-leadership, limiting beliefs, things like that, right? Psychology, the individual psychology of you as an individual. Then you look at the business psychology and things that are important around that. You're looking at external components and you're looking at internal components. When you're looking at organizational psychology, again, internal and external, you're looking at things internal, you're looking at things like management, you're looking at things like leadership, you're even looking at things like office politics, although I would say that's also a function of leadership. But when you're looking at external psychology, you're looking at things like your vendor negotiations, you're looking at things like external politics. And if you don't think that external politics play a factor in your business ownership, try living in New York. I'm just saying, like, it's a big deal. And as you grow your organization, I had an organization where I had 12 people working for me, and trust and know, when you have an organization even that size, you start attracting local politics. It's just unavoidable, just the way it is. People want you to support them publicly. They want you to put yard signs in your yards, things like that. Just the way it is. But there's also buying psychology. And that's what I want to talk about here that's relevant to this. It's about marketing magic. and you have to understand buying psychology. When you're looking, and I just want to make this quick point here, and this is it's the 15 reasons why people buy. I'm going to get my giant head out of the way here just a second so you can take a screenshot. But when you're looking at the 15 reasons why people buy, they're going to want to buy because they're going to want to make money, save time, avoid effort, escape pain. They'll buy for more comfort. They'll buy for better health, feel more love, gain praise, increase status. They'll buy for truth. They will buy for growth. They'll buy for novelty. They'll be more perceived control or to be in contribution to others. I want you to think, and I want you to put all these down. And I want you to think of all the ways, directly and indirectly, that you help people make money. And you might be thinking, well, I don't really directly help people make money. Okay, how about indirectly? If you were to take that, whatever your product or service is, right? And if it removes an obstacle for them, could that help them make money? And it's really important, again, directly or indirectly. How do you help directly or indirectly help them save money, or directly or indirectly help them save time, or directly or indirectly help them avoid effort, making something easy, or escaping pain, making something emotionally less painful or physically less painful, right? More comfort could be, feeling safe, right? How about just better health, which is in the form of less stress? Okay. So I want you to think about that. This is where you're going to have to do some homework, because again, what is your main job? What's your main job in marketing? What's your main job in marketing? Your job is to create trust with your client avatar. And there's no way you can create trust with them if you don't know them. So that's what that list of 15 reasons is supposed to help with. It's supposed to help you understand them at a very deep level. So your product or service is something you can be excited about. And you can say, hey, look, like me as a strategist, do I help people have more comfort in their life? Yeah, generally. And you're like, well, how? Not directly, but indirectly, because generally they're going to know after a while that they've got someone that's in their corner that is going to be fierce. Like I'm going to box for that person. Like I'm going to fight for that person, and I'm going to fight for them in terms of what their vision is. And the first couple times I pick up the phone and say, hey, look, I don't know if this is something. Can I talk with you? And I have tools in my toolbox that can help them. They start to realize, man, you do have a lot of skills, right? And that's because I know my avatar so deep and so well. So this is why when they start, okay, well, do I create less stress in their life? Yeah. Do I absolutely, I reduce stress in their life. I'm not here to sell me. I'm just saying this is because I know my avatar so incredibly well that I help them in all areas of those 15. And this is really important. Like people will buy for trust, or they'll buy for truth. They buy for truth, especially if they felt lied to in the past. So I can say, hey, look, have you worked with a business coach that really didn't know what they were doing, or they weren't super helpful? They're like, oh my gosh, well, let's you and I talk. I'm not saying I'm the guy. I'm not saying you might not be coachable, but let's talk, right? And at least then they can get some truth, especially if they have felt lied to in the past, right? So this is why it's important. Your job is to create trust with your client avatar. So let's talk about the 4 core functions of business as it leads to creating trust. So the 4 core functions of business are specifically around lead generation, sales, operations, and accounting. And your customer's journey in your company happens in that order. First lead gen, then sales, then operations, then accounting. And that's why it's really important to start to consider in your lead generation, like, okay, lead generation lets people know that's their first impression of your company. And it has to be in alignment. It has to be in alignment with core values of who you're trying to attract. It has to be in alignment with your core purpose. Don't put an offer out there that doesn't make any sense. The offer is where this whole thing kind of starts. But if the offer isn't in alignment, if the offer is confusing, if they don't know what to do because the call to action is wonky or unclear, they're not going to move forward. Okay, so this is where you have to get really clear on this. Again, we're taking a top-down approach as we head into this and creating trust. So this is all about generating marketing magic. And again, once you get some understanding, this is where it all starts to come together. Again, your job is to create trust with your client avatar. So if you're just getting started, right? If you're getting started in a business, or hey, you're restarting because you have a new marketing plan, this is where it's important to have a product or service for a client avatar that you've defined who aligns with your core values. That's pretty straightforward. I've said that a number of times already. But you have to deliver massive value to them over and over and over. And this is what specifically leads to a trust trigger. Now, there's a bunch of things that create trust, like that basically trigger trust. And I'm just going to go through a couple of them here. Number one is demonstrating authority, right? Now, have I demonstrated authority? Well, if I've written 8 books and I've told you, and you can easily find like where I have actually, I've sat on the board of directors for the Better Business Bureau for Central Indiana. I sit on the advisory board for the National Federation of Independent Business, right? I've got some credibility, right? That's authority. And that's authority is a trust trigger. And that's a big way to demonstrate. Being an author, by the way, for those of you who are writing a book, Debbie, I know you're writing a book. This is important. Like that's a great way to demonstrate authority, right? You could do it by having, like letters after your name, masters, of something, or PhD or something, or bachelor's, whatever, right? But my point is, like, those credentials do absolutely help with authority, position, credentials, things like that. The next one is affinity. I mentioned this earlier, but affinity is like, it's like correlation, right? It's like association, where people have familiarity based on a bunch of different things. Like they're familiar with you because they see you a lot. This is where, and I want to be clear on this. I know sometimes where people are like, oh, I don't understand. I'm posting on social media like 7 times a day. I'm like, yeah, but that might be enough for them to trust you, but they may not know what to do. It's not marketing. It does create trust, right? For sure. It does help them. Yeah, thank you, Petra. But this is important, where affinity, this is how you're going to start to generate trust. So if they haven't seen you in a while, and you got to recognize this, they did this scientifically, that it's somewhere around 40 days. If someone hasn't heard from you, they've already started to forget who you are. So I'm just saying, like, there's people who blow up my email inbox literally like every day. And I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, like you're getting in the spam folder. I don't do that. I like to email people, and I like to email them organically. So yeah, sometimes I have to send out a mass email. I'm like, hey, everybody, sorry for the mass email, but I want to let you know that I've got this thing coming up, totally free, or maybe it's a couple bucks, whatever, but that's important. Now, listen, if you're going to be sending out messages like that, or you're going to be posting or something like that, every single thing can't be an ask. Every single thing can't be like, hey, send me money. Hey, send me money. Hey, send me money. It's like people are like, oh my gosh, dude, like because we all know that person who slides into our DMs like, hey, you totally look like you could sell whatever. And you're like, oh my gosh, I really like, and you just kind of leave it unread. You know what I'm talking about? Come on. You know what I'm talking about, right? You don't want to answer them back because you don't want to be sold to, right? But this is where you're doing. So I want you to think of this. This is not in this session. I actually talk about this in another one, but it's 4 to 1. Value, 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 ask. So in other words, let me show you something of value. Hey, let me show you, again, this is where you're going to start to show, and this is where demonstration comes in. Actually, yeah, I'll just do this now. I'm going to talk about this during demonstration, but you're showing them value. Right now, I'm showing you value. This is part of a lead generation thing for me. I get people who come to me that say, hey, I like what you said. I like your face. Let's work together, right? Cool. Some of you don't, but regardless if you don't or not, I just like teaching, and I make plenty of money from real estate stuff, and I just really enjoy doing this, and it helps me write more books. It helps me have a bigger impact with more people. And if I can help more and more people, the money just comes. So I just wanted to let you know, like, that's part of demonstrating value. So what can you show someone of value and say, hey, look, not looking for anything else, but here's a website I thought you might be interested in, right? I know you mentioned something about trying to lose weight or whatever, right? Blah, 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 right? Value, 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 ask. 4 to 1. Make sense? All right. Thank you, Debbie. I appreciate it. All right. So this is important. So then you go to affiliation. Affiliation is when you're connected to a trustworthy source. Like I mentioned, like the Better Business Bureau, right? And I love the Better Business Bureau. I think they're an amazing organization. I'm not accredited with the Better Business Bureau under this business, but I am under my other business, under my property management business. And the only reason I haven't is just haven't done it. I guess I need to do that now, but I just haven't done, but the thing is, under strategic boardroom is reasonably new, but I've been coaching and doing strategic work for a long time. But the thing is, like, affiliation around the NFIB, affiliation around other businesses that would be trustworthy are really important. So if people like trust Chick-fil-A, trust and know that they would want to be like the official chicken supplier of Chick-fil-A, for example. right? So that would be that affiliation because people trust them. People look for endorsement as a trust trigger. So like one of my books, my initial book, my first book was endorsed by several reasonably famous people like Mark Eaton, who was he was a four-time NBA basketball player. He's since passed away, but he offered me an endorsement. I asked endorsement from this guy named Ivan Meisner, Dr. Ivan Meisner, who is the founder of BNI. He endorsed my book. So I had all these people endorse my book. My last book that I wanted endorsements, I wanted endorsements from people that I worked with. I wanted them from my clients, and they were happy to do it. So the people who, and they're good people. So the people that were like, hey, look, here's my endorsement, right? They're like, of course, they're showing all their friends, and like, oh, cool. So guess who bought the book? Their friends too, right? So yeah, of course it was strategic, but that endorsement was really important because it comes with it a certain degree of trust. Demonstration. This is what I was talking about earlier when I was saying like demonstrate competence. That like, hey, here's something of value. Here's something I put together totally free. Here's a class I'm doing. Here's this white paper that I wrote. Here's this, pamphlet that I put together. If you're interested, you're welcome to it. It doesn't cost a thing, right? That's demonstrating competence. By the way, I'm going to say this again. Demonstrating competence is the fastest way to create trust. The fastest way to create trust is to demonstrate competence. I said it earlier on, but it's worth repeating. Demonstration of competence is the fastest way to build trust. What's the fastest way to destroy trust, by the way? Fastest way to destroy trust is to demonstrate a lack of character. Demonstrate a lack of character. People can forgive, like if you misspoke about something, like, oh, okay, yeah, sorry, or if you got confused, people can forgive that. But if you demonstrate a lack of character, if I was like, yeah, I'm going to go hang out with my girlfriend after this, you're like, didn't he say he was married? I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess I didn't I? Right? That would be like, I'm out. I'm out. People will totally check out. So I'm just saying, like, showing or demonstrating anything around a lack of character is the fastest way to destroy trust. Think about it. What do politicians do? They attack their opponent's character. What do lawyers do under cross-examination? They attack that person's character. So I want you to think about that. That's really, really important as you're, again, this is important. Why? Again, your core values got to be on lock. They got to be figured out. So the last one is to demonstrate vulnerability. So if I came up here and I was like, let's say I was a marriage counselor and, my bride and I, we were at a point where we were not going to make it. Like we were just in a really bad spot. And this is a true story. And if I said to you, like, yeah, we were in a spot where we just weren't going to make it. And you'd be like, oh, wow. And yeah, and it was bad. Like it's as bad as it gets. Like just saying, like it's as bad as you can imagine. And like if I said black, she said white. If I said yellow, she said green. It was just it was nothing. I was like, what in the world? Can we agree on anything? So that was the kind of was. Now, if I get into telling that story and I'm being vulnerable with you, you're gonna be like, oh, I feel like I can trust this guy because he's telling me some things that it would be like I'd be kind of embarrassed to admit. So I'm just saying, like, there's vulnerability. Now, again, there's a balance there. It depends on what it is, right? Because you ever had someone who like automatically like they know you for 5 minutes and they start oversharing, right? So it's contextual. But I'm just saying, demonstrating some vulnerability. Where if I came to you and let's say I'm the sales guy, which I never want to be described as a sales guy, but if I come to you as the sales guy and I'm like, hey, look, I'm not really great. I'm a little new at this, but I'm going to work super, super hard for you. I just want to let you know that if you may ask me a question, I don't know the answer to it, I'm going to find it out. That demonstrates some vulnerability. That lets the person know, oh, okay, you're a real human, right? That's an important thing. So these are all trust triggers. There are 7 elements of trust. I'm just going to go ahead and put them all up. There's competence, character, caring, confidence, commitment, communication, and consistency. Oops. Come on back. There we go. So when you're looking at these areas of trust, okay, competence and character, for me, they are 2 trees that share the same root system. That's for me, that is everything. Competence and character. Everything else is fruit of those 2 trees. Is again, like if I'm demonstrating competence, people will trust me. If I'm demonstrating good character, people will trust me. And caring is a result of character, right? Care and like people need to know that I care about them, not just getting the sale. They need to know that they can feel safe, not that I'm just trying to get the sale. They need to know that that I am confident in what I'm doing, right? If I was like, well, I think I kind of know a little bit about marketing, and you were like, dude, I'm not like people would check out. Like, why would they stay with me, right? commitment. They want to know that I'm fully committed. Like they can trust my level of commitment to them, that I'm going to be fully dialed in. My communication is clear and often, and it's and there's an open line of communication. And finally, consistency. Am I consistent? If I showed up to these consistently 11 minutes late, I would show up to an empty room, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, there's certain elements of trust. Now, here's the thing is, if any one of these 7 are missing, you won't trust me and I'll never know why, right? There's a few people who have hopped off this call. I have no idea why. Maybe they had something else come up. Maybe they thought I was full of crap. Maybe they didn't see the value, but that's okay, right? But those of you who are sticking around, maybe you do. Maybe you're still trying to figure out, where am I at on the trust scale? You're like, hey, he's not quite a 10, but he's a 6 or 7, or he's an 8, right? He's a 9 in that area, right? I trust him enough to at least listen to more. This is your job, is to, every single one of these areas, you want to be at an 8, 9, or 10 in all these areas with that person, so they can trust you in order to buy, in order to continue on with the marketing, right? Can you have notes or PowerPoint? So Michelle, what I'm going to do, you are going to get, oh, you lost the feed? Okay. Yes, I am still here. Hold on one second. Yes, I will send out a replay. Can you not see me? Okay. So I guess some of you lost the feed. All right. Well, I'm going to keep going because I'm going to send out this replay after the fact. So I just wanted to think about this. Like, when you're thinking about different things around this is really, really important. Is to certain areas around generating and creating trust. So let's talk about the last piece of it here, is about different resources to set you up for different things. Again, we talked about the 4 core functions of business: lead gen, sales, operations, and accounting. And again, all of these things are really critical. You have to keep in mind that when you are creating the lead, like, everything has to support the lead generation function. Everything has to support that. And if you look at this, like, if you look at this table on the left, let me get my giant melon out of the way. So you look at this is like generally how it goes. Like, most people think of their lead generation efforts. It starts at lead gen, then it goes to sales, then it goes to operation, and then it goes to accounting. Okay, good, Michelle. Yeah, I'll send you out a replay at the end of this through, I'll just check your email inbox. So this is generally how people look at their lead generation: lead gen, then sales, then operations, then accounting. I want you to look at it this way. Look at it from that perspective. Lead gen just keeps going. It never stops. You never, ever, 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 ever stop sending out lead generation pieces of value to people, even if they've purchased from you. In fact, especially if they have purchased from you. And if you look at the very bottom of that second chart, you'll see an infinity symbol. And this is what I refer to as infinite marketing. You never stop with them. And you'd say, well, when do I stop marketing to them? Look, there are reasons to stop marketing to people. If they've showed you or demonstrated to you that they are no longer your avatar, that's a good reason to not market to them. There's been people who, they're like, okay, like, they've shown me a side to them that I'm like, I don't really want to work with you, right? Like, if they are, if they're intolerant of other types of people, we don't need to go into all that. I'm sorry, that's not who I want to work with. Like, that's a hard pass for me, right? Other things like that, like, if they're showing that they're not my client avatar, or they're just showing that they're not in alignment with my core values, either way, like, I'm not going to continue marketing to those people. So if they basically have shown you that they're not your client avatar, they don't align with your core values, or they've died. If they are dead, I'm no longer marketing to them. You have now my permission to not market to them. But at every other circumstance, you are to continue to market to them forever. All right. And that is really important, because that's what I refer to as infinite marketing. You never, ever, ever stop. So again, I think that people tend to go to automation way too soon. I know there's a lot of people out there really pitching AI. And if you're one of those people, listen, I respect that. I think AI is a wonderful tool in the toolbox, but I'm just letting you know, like, if you get an email from me, it's an email from me. It's an email that I have constructed. So I'm just letting you know, like, this is stuff that I have helped. And again, yeah, do I have people helping with email sometimes? Yeah, but we've talked about it. Like, we know, like, what's going on. I can't hit everybody all the time. And as my audience grows, like, I've got several thousand people in my atmosphere now. So I can't email every single person, but we're like, I've seen every single email that comes in, and I'm like, hey, can you respond back to that? I don't have the time. They're like, well, what do you want me to say? And I'll direct them. But most oftentimes it's said with the same voice. It's basically me responding back. I just don't have the time to physically put my fingers to the keys. Right. And that's important to me, right? I want to make sure that people are getting and feeling like they're a human being. I think people tend to go to automation way too quickly, right? And again, that violates trust, doesn't build trust. But this is the thing, is that once you know their problems, then you can help deliver value to solve those problems. And this is how you give away tons of value. Just give away tons of value. Demonstrate your competence. Show them that you know that you know what you're doing, that you know what you're talking about. And this is the true marketing magic, is really about creating and generating trust. So hopefully, again, we talked about the very beginning. We're talking about seeking knowledge to just understand, or seeking knowledge to specifically take action. Hopefully that you guys are really specific about certain things that you can do, that you can take action on this from this session. I really appreciate you sticking around. There is going to be a free, let's see here. I don't have this is a free Facebook group. If you'd like to come, let me get the link to that real quick. But this is come on, Facebook, work with me here. Oh my Lord Almighty, I've got all these things popping up. Okay. So this is the, oh my gosh, why is this giving me problems? Well, hold on a second. Here it is. Okay. So I'm just going to do this. So it's the time wealthy advantage. And if you are interested in this, then just come to this group, and there we go. Sorry, this was making me work for it unnecessarily. So here's the link right here. If you'd like to come to this group, there is no cost. I don't blow you guys up all the time. I actually have created a school community, but I'm not ready to launch that yet. So if you are interested in something like that down the road, we'll keep in touch. You'll hear from me, I'm sure. I'll be emailing you. If nothing else, I'll just be emailing you for the, to get you a replay for this. But hopefully you found this super helpful. I'm grateful that you stuck around. And let's see, I got a question here from Cindy. How about if we've already reached out to them, but they haven't replied? Should we send multiple follow-ups, or do you have a maximum number of follow-ups? Oh, okay, let me answer that question. Yes, I continue to follow up with them, because you don't know where they're at on the buying parade. You don't know. Most people who come to you are not there. You don't know where their head is at. And a lot of times they may feel like they're being sold to. So a lot of times, you got to recognize too, Cindy, that if you're sending out these big, long emails, which takes a long time to read, then you're asking people to make too much of an investment of their time. Most of my emails are 2 or 3 sentences. It's like, hey, hope you're well, which I do. And then I say, here, I noticed this thing, and then here's this thing. And if you love it, great. If not, all good. And that's it. And so those follow-ups, but you should also have a CRM that tracks that. So again, if you're reaching out to these people and it's radio silence, I continue to reach out to them. Like, there's people who scrub lists. I'm sorry, I don't do that. Now, if I do get a bounce back, this is what's happened before. I got a bounce back hard, and it was like a hard bounce back. I was like, hey, we don't know who this domain is, blah, blah, blah. So I deleted them from the CRM. I was like, well, there's no sense in sending an email to a, bad email address, right? And they emailed back. I was like, okay, are you emailing from the great beyond? Like, how does this work? I have no idea. There's no reason why it should have, but they emailed back. So something was up with their server. So even then, you got to be a little bit careful about the people that you remove. But to be honest with you, I don't have a maximum number. I reach out until they basically say, stop reaching out, or they demonstrate that they are not my avatar. So also, is it better to use a hook or something attention grabbing to get them back to reply? Should be straightforward about our product. If you're coming at me about your product all the time, like, what you're going to see from me, like, what I put in the subject line, what I can tell you this, Cindy, when I send you an email, it's going to say, hi, Cindy, in the subject line. That's it. I'm not trying to now. I'm not suggesting that hooks aren't relevant. They are. That's more what I teach in the advanced stuff for marketing. Hooks are absolutely important. You know why? Because it stops them in their tracks. Hooks are incredibly necessary, and that what a hook is. For those of you who are watching this, hook is like what's going to stop someone. It's the headline, right? It's like you are a business owner. Okay, now you've got my attention, right? Or you are a mom of twin boys. Okay, you've got my attention. You are a parent of a teenager. You've got my attention, right? Those are all hooks, right? So that's what she's suggesting with the hook. Now, yeah, you can experiment with different hooks. Um, and this is where you be a little bit scientific and where you're trying this, you test it. And if that is a hook that works, then you utilize that hook. But you want to be scientific around that. And there's literally hundreds of resources around creating good hooks. You have another question. Should we be straightforward about our product? Yes, you can be straightforward about your product after you've sent 4 pieces of value, ask. Okay. But I'm always sending them something of value first, right? I want something valuable. If you're always coming to me about your product, about buying your stuff, I'm going to tune out, right? Because now I'm wondering if that person is tuned out because you've kind of shot yourself in the foot in terms of demonstrating value. So in this particular case, what I might suggest is a break, right? And then come up with value that has nothing to do with you asking them to buy something. You'd say, hey, I remember in our conversation that you asked about, roller skating or something like that. Here's I thought these were kind of funny and I just wanted you to see them. Again, super short, right? Nothing that has anything to do with your product, but you recognize them as the avatar. That's incredibly important. So again, value. Then you can ask, hey, by the way, I've got a promotion coming up for, for Black Friday, something like that. Okay. Let's see. Sometimes when we send outreach emails or LinkedIn messages, people already know we're trying to sell something and they don't reply. Exactly. And that's the problem. You have to recognize the buying environment when you're doing your marketing. I do not go on LinkedIn, and I have a fairly sizable following on LinkedIn. I have people who send me literally, I don't even know. I've got like 1,000 people who are like literally I could just sit there, click for the next 10 minutes of all the people. I'm not saying that as an arrogant way. It was just all these people want to slide in my DMs and they want to sell me something. Like, do I have bad teeth or something? Like every single one like wants to sell me dental insurance or some sort of health insurance. I'm like, did you ask me anything about what it is that I might need? And that's been the problem, Cindy, is that so many people are trying to sell way too quickly. In the networking world, in the BNI world, I was an area director for BNI for a number of years. It's a networking organization. We call that the VCP process: visibility, credibility, profitability. What did I say? C is credibility. We talked about credibility. You're visible. When someone is in my inbox for that moment, they're barely visible to me. They're trying to get to profitability way too fast. Way too fast. I don't have any reason to trust them. I don't have any reason to think that they're just going to try to scam me out of my information, right? And many times when they're coming in my inbox and they're not even trying to deliver value, not even taking a moment to connect with me. They've done no engagement on my page whatsoever, but yet they want to come right into my inbox and go, hey, we should connect, right? That's the reason I think so many people are just so burned out on LinkedIn. I'm not saying it doesn't work. And maybe there's other people who are more clever than me to do it. I just don't spend my time on LinkedIn for that reason, because it's just, people are just, there's too much. It's gotten too salesy. This has been extremely helpful, Michelle. Okay, glad. Hopefully that helps you out, Cindy. I want to learn more. What do you think you could do? Want to learn more? Okay, great. Michelle, when I send out more information, again, there's more sessions just like this, and we can connect. We can, if you want to learn more. Debbie, what do you think hold on, sorry. 53-year-old eyeballs, by the way. Man, can they make this bigger? What do you think you could do to get emails to start? So are you you're talking about sourcing emails from people? Generally, you want them to be like legitimately giving you emails. So you could do something just like I'm doing right now on Eventbrite, push something out there that's valuable to your avatar and just talk, right? Like, give them good reason to want to give you your email, give them something of value. And again, that's the law of reciprocity, right? You give them something of value, they'll give you something of value, right? You gave me your email address. Therefore, you and I are going to be contacting each other. We're going to email each other, right? And it will definitely go to spam, because especially Gmail. But again, assuming it gets to you by some miracle, when we're emailing back and forth, then you'll start to see more value. I'm going to send you more value. I'm going to send you more video clips, maybe a white paper or something like that. Maybe, and then I might say, hey, if you're interested, you maybe want to buy my book, blah, 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 right? Something along those lines. But I'm just saying, like, I want to demonstrate enough value so you can trust me, trust that I know that I'm talking about, right? And you're like, I'm not really a book person. I'm like, okay, all good. I'm not going to try to like beat you up over it. If it's not for you, it's not for you, right? Okay, very good, Debbie. Cindy, you are more than welcome. Okay, we're a little late, but I was answering questions, so thank you guys for sticking around. Thank you, guys. Man, you are a wonderful group. You were chatty. You were nice. I just appreciate it. So very good. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Please keep an eye out in your inbox for this replay. I'll send that out to you here very soon. And you guys have a great rest of your day. And we'll see you guys next time.